We start tonight with Byron Donalds, Republican from Florida, who is under consideration to be Donald Trump's running mate, although I promise not to ask you about that. It'll be your first interview where the question doesn't come up. Congressman, it's nice to see you. Thank you. One word we kept hearing from President Trump today over and over was unified. The Republicans are unified. Are you unified around winning or unified around Donald Trump?
Well, we're unified around winning. Donald Trump is our nominee. He's the leader of our party. So, of course, we're united unanimously behind him to get him across the line. But today on Capitol Hill, President Trump talked about the work he was committing to do for members of the Senate, members of the House, our colleagues who might have tough re-elections, and even some of our candidates who are out there trying to flip seats currently held by Democrats up here on Capitol Hill. So it's an all-hands-on-deck approach. The president laid that out in his remarks today with members of the House, also with members of the Senate when he met with them.
All right, fair enough. You know, one thing we hear from a lot of down-ballot Republicans, that is people who are running for House seats, people who are running for Senate seats, so often, especially in tight races, they get saddled with answering for everything Donald Trump said. Was there any discussion from the Republican caucus to Donald Trump of saying, look, we get why you do the rallies, but if you could just stop saying stupid stuff between now and the election, it might make winning on the issues of inflation and immigration and foreign policy a lot easier?
Well, first of all, that never came up. Nobody even insinuated anything close to that. I think what you got to understand when you get into presidential politics is that how he goes is we're going to go with him. His coattails are going to be enormous in this election. And I think people at this point in America are sick and tired of all of the games that get played in media and, frankly, by the Democrats where they want to pick and choose words. What they're much more interested in is what is your agenda and what that means for them in their own lives. And in this presidential election, Americans are going to have a very clear choice between the 45th president and the 46th president. And it's without question that the lives of the American people were significantly better under the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. That's why he's going to be 47.
All right, so I'm not going to argue the polling with you, but I agree with you that the majority of Americans do agree that things were better under Donald Trump, at least economically. But you said that the word games don't matter. When President Trump said that he was going to look at possibly banning contraception, that means that every Republican Senate candidate and every Republican House candidate is going to have to answer for those things. Words do matter, especially when you want to be the leader of the free world. And I'm wondering why, when it would be so easy, why no Republican would stand up and say, Mr. President, if you just talk about the things that you, Byron Donalds, just spoke about, rather than other stuff, it'd be a lot easier for all of us.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think with what the comment you just said, I don't even recall him ever saying that. It might have said in a line of thinking about a myriad of subjects. If you've talked to Donald Trump, he talked about it even today. When it comes to abortion, when it comes to contraception, those are things that, frankly, are going to be left in the hands of states. You even have the Supreme Court that just came out today essentially saying that the abortion pill, mifepristone, they unanimously rejected the challenge to that. So when you bring up these issues around something which is very personal, like contraception, the president has not weighed in definitively saying, oh, that we're going to move for some sort of ban. That is not the case. He has never said something like that. And so this is where, Congressman,
he said in an interview, he said in an interview that he was going to look at it, and then about an hour later he came out and said, never mind. Now, you can say he misspoke, which I think he would agree that he did, but the fact of the matter is that's what happens. It's a problem for Republicans. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.